Okay, so sagutin muna natin yung most frequently asked question regarding vehicle maintenance. What engine oil should I use? Okay, so nasa owner's manual naman, for example, in this case, Toyota Innova, meron siya for gasoline engine. Ito, for gasoline engine. Note nyo na yung page kung meron kayong Innova as sa owner's manual. Sa engine oil lang gasoline engine niya, it requires a 5W30 or 10W30 API grade SL. Okay? Then or 15W40 and 20W50 API grade SL, SM or SN multigrade engine oil. Meron naman siyang range. So, pwede naman siyang gamitin from 5W30 to 20W50 depending on the temperature. Pero generally, mas maganda kung susundin yung recommended viscosity which is 5W30 and 10W30 pati yung API grade SL because the engine is designed to run with a specific engine oil. So, yun yung baseline oil niya. So, any change in that viscosity, you will introduce another variable, either stress or fuel efficiency. So for diesel engine naman, it requires an API CF4 compliant oil and SAE grade viscosity of 10W30 or pag extremely low temperatures 5W30. So either 10W30 or 5W30 engine oil. So meron din siyang range from 5W30 to 20W50 depending on the ambient temperature na kung saan gagamitin yung sakyan. So for Nissan Navara naman, ito for D23 same din sa Terra. Ito, so for the YD25 DDTI, 5W30 is preferable, pero if not available, you can refer with the chart from 5W30 rin to 20W50. Pero ang sinasabi niya dito, only if the 5W30 is not available. So same lang din because the engine, in this case, the YD25 DDTI is designed to run with the 5W30 engine oil. So if you modify that into another viscosity, you're adding another variable to the engine. So pwedeng less fuel efficiency or less protection or more protection, depende talaga. So that's another variable to take in consideration. Pero generally, you have to follow what is the owner's manual recommendation. In this case, 5W30 and ano bang API certificate, ano bang API na recommended nito? Ito, API CF4. So sa Innova, CF, para dito CF4 or ASEA B1, B3, B4 or B5. Pero may specific sila dito na prohibition. Never use API CG4. Okay? So ngayon, alam mo na kung ano yung bibilin mong oil. So, alam mo ng 5W30, alam mo ng API CF4. So, saan makikita yan sa engine oil? So, pag bumibili ka ng langis, makikita. Ang una mo mapapansin, ito, bukod sa label, yung viscosity. So, this is the viscosity, 5W30. So, in this case, this is a multigrade oil. Bakit siya multigrade? Because it has a set of two viscosity grade. So, viscosity is resistance to flow. So, sinasabi ng iba, this weight. So, 5 weight or 30 weight oil. Pero weight is relative kasi. Relative siya sa mass versus gravity rin. Pero viscosity is resistance to flow. So, in this case, SAE, Society of Automotive Engineers, set a standardized test on how to measure the viscosity of fluid. So, they have range from 0 to, I think, 60 siguro, yung pinaka-tikas viscosity ng oil na meron sila. Pero, I don't know, baka meron pa sila mas makapal din. So, in this case, this multigrade oil. Pag monograde oil, mapapansin niya, nakalagay either SAE 30 or ito, ganito, SAE 40. Pero since this is a multigrade oil, dalawang set yung lumalabas sa kanya. 5W30. So, what's the meaning of W? So, iniisip ng iba baka weight, pero hindi siya weight. It's actually winter. Pero, winter doesn't mean ice cold temperature. Because sa SAE, multigrade oil classification, measure siya into two set of temperature. One is 40 degrees centigrade, that is for the cold temperature, and 100 degrees centigrade, which is for the hot temperature. So, since two sets to, yung first set, siya yung measured against the 40 degrees centigrade. So, this oil acts like an SAE 5 at 40 degrees centigrade. And it acts like an SAE 30 viscosity grade oil at 100 degrees centigrade. So, because viscosity is relative to temperature. So, pero yon dalawa lang siya. Either 40 degree or 100 degree. More than 100 degrees centigrade, hindi natin alam kung anong viscosity ng oil. So, pwedeng, eto, for example, in this case, at 100 degrees centigrade, it acts like an SAE 40 grade oil at 100 degrees centigrade. So, eto naman, for example, yung Belo Gold, and it acts like an SAE 15 grade viscosity at 40 degree centigrade oil. So, siguro misconception na lang nung iba, medyo ang kilalakyan is ito 30 degrees, ito 40 degrees, ito 30 degrees, or ito 5 degrees. Hindi ganon. It's a measurement by SAE based on two set of temperature, 40 degrees centigrade and 100 degrees centigrade. So, yun yung viscosity. Diba? So, ito, compare na rin natin siguro. Pag sinabi, ito kasi yung dalawa. So, meron dito 5W30, meron dito 15W40. Parehas naman sila ng 40 degree, ito. Para parehas sila ng 40. Ito. So, parehas naman silang SAE 40 at 100 degrees centigrade. Pero, anong difference sila ng dalawa? Ito, 15W. Ibig sabihin, mas malapot to. Mas malapot to compared dito. Pero actually, mas malapot lang to. Itong oil na to, mas malapot lang siya at 40 degrees centigrade or lower. Between 40 degrees centigrade and 100 degrees centigrade siguro. Pero at 40 degrees centigrade, this is thicker oil than this because at 40 degrees centigrade, this acts like an SAE 5. So, this is less viscous. So, it will flow more easily than this oil, which has a 15W40. But then, this oil will still be better at cooler temperature than this. Ito kasi is 20W50, meaning at 40 degrees centigrade, this acts thicker with SAE 20, and it also behaves thicker at 100 degrees centigrade at SAE 50. So this is thicker actually, even compared to this. Pero this is a gasoline oil kasi gasoline engine oil. This for diesel oil. So next thing na tinitignan natin is yung API certification. Kanina nabanggit ko na sa Innova, meron siyang required na API CF4, tsaka sa Navara din API CF4. So ano ba yung API certification na yan? So mapapansin mo dito, for example, ito Amsoil OE motor oil, meron siyang API service donut. Ito yung bilog. So API is American Petroleum Institute, isa silang independent licensing organization which certifies oil. Hindi, voluntary lang naman to. So kung gusto ng manufacturer na magpa-API certify, pwede naman. Magpapatest lang sila ng certain amount of their oil, and it should pass certain classification. So the latest classification sa gasoline engine is, I think, API SP, introduced I think in May 2020, basta this year lang, just this year, API SP. So, siguro baka wala pang available na or wala pang manufactured oil that will pass the API SP standard. Pero, ang pinaka-latest still is API SN, SN+. So, ito, yung API Service Donut. Sa API Service Donut, nasa gitna yung viscosity. Nasa taas yung API Service Classification niya. So, in this case, this is an API Service SN compliant oil. And ito yung plus certification. So, may oils kasi which have surpassed the current classification. Kaya siya nilalagay. So, meron siyang API SN+. I think SN+ is for the low spark pre-ignition yata, low speed pre-ignition for the turbocharged engine. So, better for the turbocharged engines yung API SN+ over the API SN and the earlier APIS classification like SL, SM, SF, ganun. So, ito naman for diesel oil, ito mas maganda to kasi ito may service donut din siya. For diesel oil, API service H4 or SL. So, bakit magkaiba? Bakit ito C? Ito naman bakit ito S? So, API classifies engine oils into two, either gasoline engine oil or diesel engine oil. So, pag gasoline engine oil, API service ang tawag na. So, service meaning S. So, API service. Yung iba tinatawag spark daw, kaya S. Pero, based sa website ng API, kaya siya S it means service. For diesel engines naman, C. Sabi ng iba is compression, pero sa website is commercial. Yun ang nila for diesel engines. So, yan. Ganun din. Yung service donut niya. Ito, 15W yung viscosity niya. Classification API niya is CH4 SL. Ito, wala siya yung plus certification. Kasi wala CH is walang plus certification. Walang plus certification yung CH. I think yung CI meron. So, yung Rimula R4X, not sure if CI4 plus siya, pero CI4 kasi yung Rimula R4X. So, yan, meron din pala, nakalimutan ko ito. Meron kasing ibang oil na resource conserving. This added benefit siya for fleet operation. So, more fuel efficient oils. Kasi, alam naman natin, yung oil is introduced to the engine, sa engine walls. Kasama rin siya sa nagbe-burn. Minsan, on a small quantity, nagbe-burn din siya kasama dun sa ignition ng engine, either compression or by spark. So, resource conserving oils, ang claim ng API is more fuel efficient, although based on independent testing, around 1% ang naman yung benefit niya. So, ito, for example, in this case, ito, API CK4. CK4 is the latest standard for diesel engine oils. So, ang API kasi, it's also backwards compatible. So, if this oil is API CK4, it will work with an engine that requires API CF or CF4. So, kaya siya nakalagay dito, CF compliant din siya. So, ayan, yung CI4 plus. So, ito, compliant siya CI4 plus. Ito, same din, CH4 lang to. Ito, CI4 plus din. Pero CK4 na siya. So, more advanced na yung classification niya. I think yung CK4 is for the protection din sa soot. So, carbon prevention ng carbon buildup, lalo na sa more stringent emission testing sa ibang bansa. Sa ibang bansa kasi I think Euro 6 na eh. Sa Pilipinas, Euro 4 pa rin. Pero malaki na yung improvement from 500 parts per million requirement to 15 parts per million. So, for engines that require Euro 4 fuel or above na merong 15 parts per million or lower sulfur content, so beneficial siya kasi it meets or exceeds the CK4 standard. So ito mga nauna siyang standard, ito CH4. I think yung Dela Gold yata is yung Dela Gold Ultra, yung mga bagong release, si J4 na yata. Pero still, CK4 yung latest standard na API. So, yung iba naman, magtataka kayo, bakit ito CH4 pero may SL din? Ito, katulad nito naman, sa AMSOL Signature Series Max Duty, may API CK4 and SN siya. So, does that mean pwede siyang gamitin sa gasoline engine? Technically, yes, because it passes the standards for gasoline engine oils. So, standard kasi in gasoline engine oil is SN. So, if the engine requires an API SN or lower, this can work. So, as well as this. Naalala niyo yun sa Innova. Yung gasoline engine ng Innova, it requires only an API SL. So, this actually could work. Pero, syempre, sundin pa rin natin yung manufacturer recommended, which is the API SL or SN. So, kung mas maganda pa rin for gasoline engine, use gasoline engine oil. So, for diesel oil, use diesel oil pa rin. Pero, syempre, if compliant, pwede rin naman. Pero, yun lang. Meaning, pwede rin. Hindi siya ginawa specifically for that because diesel engines require a different kind of protection kasi it works on compression and the diesel fuel is a lot dirtier than the more refined gasoline fuel. So, magkaiba sila. Ito, for example, the diesel engine oils have more detergents compared to gasoline engine oils because gasoline fuel is a lot cleaner out of the box than the diesel fuel. So, ano pa bang kaya nating malaman dito? I think that's it muna for meron pa pala. So, pahabol natin. So, may mga madalas na pag-uusapan sa forum. Is thicker oil better than thinner viscosity engine oil? So, sinasabi kasi nila, for example, 20W50 is thicker compared dito sa 5W30. So, this would provide better engine protection. Actually, not necessarily. Okay, so, syempre, yung nauna nga sinabi na kanina, the engine is designed to run a specific viscosity of oil, which in this case, like sa Innova, 5W30. So, it is designed to run with this specific engine oil viscosity. Hindi naman yung brand. You can change the brand, but the viscosity is very important. So, by going thicker, so, syempre, mas makapal yung oil na kailangang i-move ng engine. So, fuel efficiency may suffer. Pero, well, pwede nga more protected yung engine because mas makapal nga naman yung oil na dumadaloy. Pero yun nga lang, mas may hirapan yung engine itulak yung mas makapal na oil. And, more importantly, when you use thicker oil, like this, 20W50, pwedeng mag-suffer yung engine sa cold startup. So, cold startup doesn't necessarily mean snow or winter condition. Cold startup, kunyari, pag matagal mong hindi ginamit yung sakyan, at 1 week, the engine is very cold. So, imagine pushing a SAE 20 to that engine compared to this SAE 5. So, mas madaling itulak yung SAE 5. Kasi upon startup, dun lang gatakbo yung oil pump. Hindi naman siya tumatakbo pre-startup. So, kailangan tumatakbo naman na yung makina bago tumakbo yung oil pump. So, if that oil pump has to push a thicker viscosity, so imagine, syempre, baka mas matagal makarating yan sa parts ng engine na kailangan malubricate compared to this kind of oil na SAE 5 on cold temperature. So, mas madali siyang maitutulak to the parts that is needed to be lubricated. on cold startup. So, pero syempre in other application, right, racing condition, pag sa racing condition, usually ginagamit nila dun is 15W50 or 15W60 because yung makina tumatakbo na higher temperature than normal. Kasi, alam naman natin na the engine runs on an optimal temperature. Kaya siya malapit lang sa gitna most of the time. Hindi siya nag-exit dun sa gitna. Hindi rin siya bumaba dun sa gitna or masyadong mababa. Yung iba nagre-rekta ng fan, masyadong malamig yung makina. So, pag masyadong malamig yung makina, it also tends to damage the engine. Kasi hindi siya nag-run sa optimal engine temperature. So, for optimal engine temperature, nagko-control dyan yung thermostat. So, it will always run at the optimum engine temperature kung ordinary use lang naman. Kaya, sufficient siya, yung 5W30. There is no need to use a thicker viscosity oil to protect your engine. Kasi it is designed to run a specific viscosity. And the hotter temperature of the environment, or in this case, this is the Philippines, we have ambient temperature of I think 30 degrees centigrade to 30 to 35. It doesn't really affect your engine much because the engine runs at a lot hotter temperature than that sa ambient temperature, and it is controlled well by the cooling system of the engine. So kaya nga may coolant. So if the engine cooling system works well, it will run at the optimal engine temperature. And for that optimal engine temperature, the manufacturer recommended viscosity is sufficient. So, hindi mo na talaga kailangan gamitin yung thicker viscosity oil. Pero, in the instance na mag-change ka nga naman ng viscosity, generally, you can go lower at the first set. Kasi ito sa cold start or cold temperature siya. So, you can run an SAE 0W30 on an engine that requires an SAE 5W30 because ang nabago mo lang naman is yung flow ng engine oil at cold start up. So, pero at warmer temperature, tatakbo rin siya, magbe-behave siya nung same sa 30 SAE grade 30. So, ito, kunyari ganito. So, at cold start up, it will run at an SAE 15. So, medyo malapot sa cold start up. Pero, it will still run at 40. Ito naman, sinasabi naman malabnaw daw. Pero, malabnaw siya sa cold temperature start up lang. So, at 40 degrees. So, malabnaw siya. SAE 5 lang siya. Pero, at the same temperature that this will run, it will also behave like an SAE 40. Okay? So, pero dito sa second set, wag kayong bababa dun sa recommended or preferred ng manufacturer. So, kung nga sa Innova, ang required niya is 5W30. Do not go lower than 30. So, you cannot run a 5W20 on that engine kasi it will damage the engine. Kasi yung engine oil, it will behave at SAE 20 at 100 degrees centigrade when the engine requires that oil to have a viscosity grade of SAE 30 at 100 degrees. So, baka mag-skip yung oil protection doon kasi pag masyado ng malabnaw, so may mga parts ng engine na hindi na malulubricate properly. So, I think na-address na yung question nun. So, ayun yung tip. You can go lower the first set. You can go higher in the second set. So, you can go 5W50. It will not damage the engine very much. Pero, siguro magsasuffer yung fuel economy ng engine or yung seals. Kasi, syempre, the valve clearances or clearances ng engine is designed to run at a specific viscosity, and if you go thicker oil, so syempre mas mahirap i-push yung viscosity ng oil na yun sa clearance na designed on that engine. Pero generally you will not damage the engine by going thicker on the second set. Magsasuffer lang siguro yung fuel economy. Pero dito naman sa first set, do not go lower. Do not go. It's not pwede kang bumaba dito sa 5W, so you can go 0W. It will not necessarily damage the engine, pero syempre the thicker you go, so for example ito 15W, so mas makapal yung viscosity at cold startup, so it might affect the engine performance and the longevity of the engine as well. So isa pa palang question ito, synthetic, ito ay mineral oil. Ito, mineral oil lang to eh. So, conventional motor oil. Ano bang difference? So, synthetic oil is will always be better than the mineral oil because mineral oil is just a refined base oil lang siya. Refined crude oil. Pero ito, synthetic oils, these are engineered to have a more consistent and more superior chemistry. So imagine na yung asin. So yung wag na lang asin masyadong pino. So when you have a building blocks, stable building blocks, so compared sa conventional engine oil, it will have a less uniform chemistry, molecular structure. So some molecules could be bigger than the other, and some molecules could be smaller than the other. So it will not have the same uniform structure nung synthetic motor oil, kasi synthetic motor oil is engineered to have the molecular structure of the oil to be uniform. So synthetic oil will always be better than the mineral oil. The question is it worth it? So yun lang yan. So madalas nagkakatalo sa presyo pero yung general rule is the synthetic oil will always be better compared to the conventional oil. It is only a matter of is it worth it, kasi mas mahal ito compared dito. Pero yun nga, if you get a synthetic motor oil at a cheaper price or close price to conventional motor oil, there is no reason really to choose the conventional motor oil because the synthetic motor oil will always be better than the conventional motor oil. Yun nga lang, will it be worth it? So ayun lang siguro for this video. So if you have any more questions, post your questions below or message me at my selling page, which will be posted with the link below. Thank you.